Braid my hair with me while I tell you about what it's like to be a C.O.D.A. For those of you who don't know what a C.O.D.A is, a C.O.D.A means that you're a child of a deaf adult. So for me and my siblings, my dad is deaf, and it has honestly contributed a lot to so many great things that have happened in our lives, and also to some kind of hard things and everything in between. But overall, it is such a blessing to have a deaf dad. Sign language is my first language. I am the oldest in my family, so that means it was just me and my parents for my formative years of growth, like my first 2 years before my little sister came in the picture. I have a lot after that, but before my first little sister came in the picture. So I really just did sign for my first 2 years, and then I went to preschool, and my mom figured they would help me out a little more with English when I went to school. So sometimes my grammar is a little funny, even though I love English, honestly. But sometimes it's funny because I have these languages that mix up in my brain. I also speak Spanish, so yeah, so sometimes I just get confused. But yes, sign language is my first language. And I remember being in first grade and assuming because I spoke another language that everybody did, all the time. So I would always ask people what other language they knew. I probably sounded very snobby, but genuinely, I was just oh, everybody knows another language. And so, I don't know, that's just kind of something funny. And I also, just as I've gotten older, have noticed so many different things in my life and my personality that I attribute greatly to my dad's deafness. One of those, for example, is how much I talk. I honestly talk so much, and in so much detail. Deaf people typically have a lot of detail when they talk. They're also very straightforward when they talk. Sometimes they don't understand phrases. My dad, for example, he doesn't really, we've had to teach him what it means to say it's raining cats and dogs. He's what? No, it's not. So things like that, sometimes he just doesn't get. And so I've learned to be very straightforward in my speech, and I just kind of talk a lot in a lot of detail to make sure that people understand. So I don't know, call it a flaw if you will, but it's just how I am, and I honestly like that I'm that way. I'm a very clear communicator. Another issue that I personally have is that I will talk anywhere. I grew up in a way where my language didn't interfere in quiet places, so I just would talk all the time. I remember doing the bring your parents to work day. I remember doing the bring your parents to school day. We did that at my middle school. And I just chatted with my parents the whole time, just under the desk, signing to them. And no one knew, and it wasn't disruptive to anybody, but I'm always just talking. So during a movie, I'm talking. I'm sorry, I am. During church, I'm talking. During just quiet times, I'm just chatting because I don't know, I just grew up that way. And it's not I'm disrespectful about it, but yeah, I'm just a little talker. Another thing that's really interesting, a lot of people often think that because I, grew up around a lot of deaf people and going to a deaf ward and all that stuff, that it must be really quiet. No, just simply no, no. I remember being in church and deaf parents not being able to hear their kids crying or yelling or laughing or things like that. So it's always really loud. My dad is very, very loud, and he's obviously not aware of it. So me and all my siblings, me and the one right under me especially, have really bad misophonia, huge issues with loud noises or body noises or mouth noises, just because it was just a lot growing up. Another way that my dad's deafness has hugely shaped me is that I am very touchy and physical, especially when I'm talking or around someone. Sign language is just a language that's very, out there and very visual and physical. And so I tend to touch people a lot when I talk to them or get a little closer than most people. It's just kind of how you do it. And I don't know, it's just something that's embedded in me. I also am super expressive when I talk. I don't know if I've been really expressive right now, but I typically am very expressive when I talk because honestly, facial expressions and body language and that is basically part of the grammar in sign language. It informs so much of the context of a conversation that you can't not have it. And so I'm very expressive in all the languages I speak. Having a deaf dad though is not always easy. It's not always sunshine and rainbows. I think that's the same for honestly just any family, any parents, any relationship. But there are certain like distinct difficulties that come with deafness. And I'll just do like a mild one, but for example, me and my siblings, we're all very musical. We like sing and dance, and every time we get together, we're listening to music. It's the Puerto Rican in us. My mom's Puerto Rican, but yeah, we're just very musical. And my dad, unfortunately, cannot participate very much in those types of things. So he often kind of just like sits and watches us enjoy, and we try to incorporate him, and honestly he's such a good sport, and it makes it somewhat more meaningful when he's willing to like sit and watch us sing or different things like that because he can't hear it. But yeah, so that's something that's kind of hard. Like I love to sing. I wish my dad knew what I sounded like when I sang. He'll often ask other people like if we sound good, which warms my heart, but it's kind of hard sometimes. Something else that's kind of hard is that people tend to like take advantage of him and he doesn't realize. Like you could have a conversation talking about him right in front of him and he wouldn't even notice or really understand like if you're facing the other way. So that's something kind of hard. I know he was bullied a lot like growing up because of his deafness. And so that's something that's like really hard for me to see and makes me sad. Or people sometimes assume he's rude because he'll be like standing in the way and like literally can't hear them ask to move, and then they'll get upset or they'll like tap him really hard or push him or just like be kind of rude, but they don't know he can't hear. But it's like, I don't know, be nice. Just be nice. Overall, even if I had the option to like make my dad hearing in this world that we live in, I honestly wouldn't. I think that it's shaped him in so many good ways, and me and my siblings have grown so much because of it, and I just love him with all my heart, and I think he's perfect the way he is.